We are live. Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and today we're chatting with Dan and Connie Kazmaier from Steep Games. They successfully launched their game Chai on Kickstarter last year and are 3 weeks into their new campaign for the Chai expansion pack called Chai High Tea. Dan, Connie, welcome. How you doing?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing really good. Fellow Canadian, we're from Calgary, and I think you're from Ontario somewhere.
Always love talking with a fellow Canuck, and I thought it was pretty interesting that both Connie and I are from Barrie. And where I live right now is literally a block away from where Connie grew up. So to have people on the opposite sides of the country and then to have that close of a shared background, it's truly remarkable. So again, thank you so much for joining us on this chat. I was wondering if you could just quickly tell people about the base game Chai, just so they can understand what the game is about, kind of how the mechanics work, and then we can maybe get into the expansion pack if that's cool.
Sure. Yeah, so we made Chai, I guess it would be about 2 years to a month ago-ish. Yep. It came into conception, so I was working on a submarine game and then realized, oh no, it might have miniatures and it's going to be super hard. So we're like, well, let's try to pick a different theme, and we landed on tea because we both enjoy it. We're kind of like tea hobbyists, so it's been really interesting getting to know this whole other hobby and enjoy it to a different level. We're trying like fermented teas and everything. It's been awesome. So this game is basically you making recipes of tea. As a tea house owner, you could be, let's see, we got oolong or white tea, rooibos, black tea. Like you pick a tea house and then you're completing customers. I think Connie has a few.
Customers. So there's actually, there's my parents.
So, nice.
Yeah, so then my parents want a specific type of oolong with honey and ginger tea. So each customer in the game will actually have a different recipe that they're looking for, and your job as the merchant is to try to fulfill their tea recipes. And then there's also their the value. So the harder their recipe is, the more point value you have at the end.
Yeah, that last card you have, the Moroccan tea guy.
Yeah.
He wants a green tea. So if you're not the green tea player, you're gonna have to pay $1 to get the little tea leaf. So you add to that recipe, and you might score some more endgame points that way. If Connie was the green tea merchant, I'd have to pay her $1. So you have a bit of interaction, like Seven Wonders, if you've played that.
Yep.
Yeah, so you take all those ingredients. Some of them are harder to find, like the sugar, milk. You find them in the pantry. So you take them all and you put them into a cup. People like the cups because they're kind of squishy and they look like a terracotta clay cup.
They've been designed by the same person who made the Scythe miniatures. So
yeah,
oh, wow.
That was a really cool thing when we were able to get him to do it for us. So
we learned on the fly. I mean, we were just going to put in some Dixie cups, and then we're like, why not make it custom? So that's kind of been our journey, figuring out different components. And our big takeaway is probably that product design is just as important as game design, because everything's an experience from cups to the wooden.
Absolutely. I mean, those cups, is that part of like an expansion, or is that those cups come with every game? Like
in the deluxe,
and the retail.
Wow.
So they weigh quite a bit and they make the box a bit thicker because of the height. But yeah, we think they're worth it, and you can even drink tea out of them. It's not FDA approved, but
don't quote us on that.
Not recommended, but hey, you could. Maybe you shouldn't, but you can. I'm gonna actually share a screen really quickly here just to go really fast through this through the campaign. So this is the Chai one. I'll get to the expansion in a second. First of all, I just want to say congratulations. I mean, you guys have done really, really well. The first base game, which was last year, you raised about 136,000 Canadian dollars, almost 2,600 backers, which is just a huge number of backers. So, and then when I compare it to where you're at right now, and you still got a week left to go in your campaign, you've already surpassed that point, right? So you're now at 2,500 backers. $168,000, and as I said, you still got a week to go. So, 400% of your target sounds like a large number, but when you get into the actual numbers, this is impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, have you found as you went through Was there learnings when because you did one, right? And now you're into another one where you've obviously shown some greater success. How did you bridge those learnings, or how did you even maybe bridge some of those people that were with you on that first campaign? How did you kind of pull them over to the new one?
Yeah, well, it really helps to, I guess, deliver on your first project. I
Of
think that like
course, yeah.
98, 90%, 99% of people have received their games. There's just a few of the Tea Masters, so the wooden edition that we're making. And I think in Argentina or Brazil, just the last leg of that journey for them, it's
Yeah.
coming to a close. So yeah, even learning how long all this takes, like when your factory makes the game, it takes another 3, maybe 4 months to even arrive at someone's house. So
Sure.
just trying to manage expectations. We
Mm-hmm.
were a little bit behind on that because we thought it was faster, but whenever you learn, you're able to apply it in a different way. So yeah, for a new campaign, I think that's today's update. We're putting up a production schedule,
Mm-hmm.
just showing
Oh, okay.
like how far things are coming along with the new game, and it'll help communicate those expectations better. So yeah, and it keeps us honest, and everyone, we're all eager for the project and fulfilling it, so it's important that we do it together.
And I
So,
think for the
so go ahead.
first
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no worries. For the first campaign, it's easy to be really optimistic and say, I can get this done in 2 days or whatever, right? But it actually takes 2 months. So those are things that definitely going into the second one you learn, and you can kind of put in place all those necessary pieces before the campaign even launches.
Sure. Now, this game plays, is it 4 players or is it more than 4 players?
1 to 5.
It's 1 to 5. And then with the expansion, does that add more players or just add more complexity? Or how's the kind of high T kind of fit into all this?
Yeah, totally. So the high T expansion adds extra little additions to the player board, and it gives each player different powers that they can use. So I like to liken it to Santorini's kind of their god cards. So
Sure.
they add that extra layer of complexity for people.
Nice. And I noticed, like, in terms of the components, now we're getting into like acrylic dice,
Yeah,
like some high end, like metal coins, like,
yeah. There's the acrylic dice. Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's pretty transparent. It's really cool, actually.
it could be like
so
a sugar cube, basically.
yeah. So like when you talk to people who are always, go through that, the decision of how much do I put into the game,
Mhm.
right? At what point through, cost benefit, do I, keep, for lack of a word, pimping out the game, right? I mean, this game has got everything in it, right? Literally everything you could any kind of upgrade you could possibly imagine, you guys have done. How have you managed that?
Well, at the start, we honestly weren't sure what the costs were. Like game trays, for example, like they're phenomenal. But I don't think we had a quote even at the time. But regardless, we just wanted to make it look awesome. So yeah, from the get-go, we wanted to make a product that we'd be proud of, and going forward, the people would know that we really value that whole immersive experience. So yeah, it's been more of how can we honor our community and give them the best value. Someone came up to us at Gen Con, and they bought us a burger at Steak and Shake, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Why did you put it for $59? Like my wife and I would pay, 70 or something." And we're like, "Wow, thank you so much." Like we honestly didn't know how to price things, and at the end of the day, like if you can have more people in your project,
Yeah.
you can do cooler stuff. So yeah, it totally goes both ways.
So let's talk about the community. So rough math, I was doing it ahead of time. You got about 853 backers of your kind of just the expansion pack on its own, right? Without adding in the original deluxe game.
Yeah.
So that works out to be about a third of your current backers. If you need to take a tea break there, you need to pause that. Take a sip of my tea while I'm at it too.
Gotta
Little
stay
mint green,
hydrated.
little mint green tea action there. But when I do the math and I see you've got about a third of the people that were part of, or the original, that have now come and just bought the expansion, that's number one. Seems like a pretty high number to get a third of your original backers to come back for the expansion. How did you do that? Like what kind of things did you guys do from a marketing standpoint, or how do you, for those people out there maybe doing a second version of their game, what advice would you have on how you do that? How do you pull those people over?
Yeah, I think part of it too, we were actually going to launch our two-player game on that date. And so we knew that, there's definitely a lot of our people, our community people who are looking forward to that. And
Sure.
when we couldn't go ahead with that, with all the COVID stuff happening, we wanted to honor them in some way. So that's kind of why we made the expansion have shipping included, just so it makes it simple for everybody. And yeah, and then people can have that extra complexity for cheaper than maybe what they would pay in stores. So
Yeah, $20 in free shipping seemed like, we're gamers too, so we would jump on
Yeah.
that. Yeah, been really cool to see people excited to back it for that value.
And have you found that like your Facebook community, the ongoing community that you've kind of maintained, that's part of that communication, so that it's not kind of like, okay, you bought the game, see you later, but let's keep interacting so that we can kind of bring these people along for a journey.
yeah, our
Yeah.
community's awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah, even, I mean, every
Today,
day
like an hour
there's,
ago.
there's people posting different things, different teas that they're getting, or I think this morning there was a post with someone who said, this is my daughter's favorite game, and they took a picture
Yeah.
of their younger daughter. I think she's maybe 5 or 6, and
Oh, wow.
she calls it the game, right? So it's stuff like that. It really brings us joy as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it makes one or two people super happy and it's their favorite game out of all of them, like that's good enough for us. We yeah, like it's not about the fame. We just wanted to make something cool, and even our artists have done an amazing job. Like without them, there's really no game.
Yeah.
We have a local artist from Calgary. Her name's Mary Hasdyke, and
Yeah,
she even does
did
the
all of these. The
She's done
beautiful
amazing.
colors.
yeah,
The artwork is beautiful.
Thank you.
she even does all of the manhole coverings in the city.
Oh, wow.
So some of them have a teapot on them because she used a similar graphic for it. And our other artist, Sahana, she's from India because Chai is Indian.
Yep.
So we're like, hey, why don't we have her do that? And she was super excited and just out of art school. So it's, propelled her in many ways. So yeah, I think James Hudson, he said one day to us that the more ships in the ocean, the higher the tide is. So whether it's artists or other Kickstarters that are on right now, like Nemesis is wrapping up, and other ones, like it's not competition, it's more of how can we help each other. And even if there's more people on Kickstarter, like there's going to be more people checking out your game too. So yeah, it's a really unique industry that's being really helpful.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. When I talk to different game developers, it seems to be this real community amongst developers and publishers, where there really is this genuine interest in helping other people, wanting to see other people succeed. Back to your point, it's not necessarily competition, because as you know, it's like beer, right? You can't, anybody says they don't like beer, well, they've never tried every beer, so how do they know they don't like beer? Board games are very similar. There's so many board games out there, so many different mechanics and play times and stories, that there's something out there for everybody. And it's not necessarily a competition. You just need to find that group that's looking for your particular game. Yeah. One thing I noticed you guys did, which I hadn't seen on a lot of other campaigns, was creating a stretch target based on social activity.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? How'd you come up with that idea? That is so smart.
Sure. Yeah. So we had our regular stretch goals based on the amounts. And then I think it was about quarter or halfway through the campaign, people in our community said, well, why don't we have stretch goals? And they were already sending in fan art or tagging us on different there was tea recipes. I'm trying to remember what else was on Twitter.
Even songs.
Yeah, songs.
So we have like a Spotify playlist for the community, like tea-based songs.
So then we said, why not? We'll do it. So I think that graphic came together pretty quickly over the course of a day, and then we just, put it on, and people really engaged with it, and we crushed it, which was amazing.
Yeah, it's a low-cost way to really push the people who have already backed you to now get behind it. And right, that's usually a big challenge for people who are doing these campaigns, is not just getting that pledge, but then how do you get that person, once they've pledged, to now go out and almost become an advocate for you? And it is very challenging. So this is a very smart way to approach that, to say, hey, not only have you pledged? I'm not going to ask you necessarily to force all your friends to pledge, but hey, you know what? If we can get this many Instagram posts, or if we can get this many people to make to do this on Facebook, or do this particular social action, which is going to help get the word out, we're going to reward you with that effort with something that's an add-on, right? And I mean, the cost you guys used, I think it was, you know, adding additional cards, which is a low cost for you to add into the game, but gives a higher perceived benefit to the people that are participating.
Yeah, we have a lot of unique cards that are exclusive to the deluxe pack. So, you know, for all the creators out there like us, we're trying to figure out like what works in retail and then what works on Kickstarter, because as backers, like there should be some kind of incentive. So, still trying to figure that out in the future. Like, do you go to retail is identical to Kickstarter, or do you just have a pre-order on your website? And so we have our unique challenges going into our second Kickstarter and ones in the future too.
And we'll get into the ones in the future maybe in a couple moments if you don't mind. Just quickly, I do want to jump into some of the kind of the back end part of your Kickstarter. So in terms of your pledge manager, I noticed on your first campaign you used CrowdOx, and on this one you've used GameFound, sorry. Why the change? Is, you know, not to disparage any of them, but you know, some of them have benefits versus others, or different things that they do for you. Was there a reason you changed, and what specifically were you looking for?
Yeah, there's no huge difference. I mean, shout out to Chandler at CrowdOx. We Skyped for an hour a few days ago, and we're really good friends. I'd recommend them all, and we'll probably go with them in the future. But just as a young publisher, we're trying to figure out what other options are just before we get totally married all together. And yeah, it's been really interesting figuring out like what percentages do different pledge managers take after, like post campaign, or their import fees, the experiences of other publishers. Because whether you're a really big one or a small one, you're going to have different needs. So a lot of campaigns actually don't need one. It's only if you have add-ons like playmats, or for us, we had coloring books and additional metal coins. So it's just specific to your needs. But yeah, any kind of pledge manager is super helpful. It helped us export all the data easily and do like different shipping groups. So if someone added an add-on and they're in, let's say, Singapore, it would just add one more dollar based on weight, because there's different requirements for regions. So yeah, but they're super helpful. And GameFound, I think it's free at the moment, so we're just giving them a try.
Nice. Yeah, it definitely is. I would say interface is another piece of that puzzle as well, right? Because each of these different pledge managers have different interfaces, and you need to find the one that's going to work best for you. And again, that all comes down to complexity, right? Complexity of the game.
Totally.
So that's very cool. The other thing I noticed on your site was that the consultants, it said you gave a shout out to some consultants. Are you using any kind of third-party marketing, or is a consultant more kind of giving you guidance through the process, or how's that kind of been part of your campaign?
I guess there's so many consultants we didn't even add. I mean, Roxley is another great Canadian company. They did Santorini and Brass. So I was playing soccer drills with them last night, and like on the side, you can just ask questions. And so we've received so much wisdom from other publishers, from Thunderworks Games. Keith, he actually won a copy of Chai in a different board game group. So we were chatting when I was getting a milkshake at some point yesterday afternoon. So, and then we were talking about like, hey, how do you get your game into other languages in other countries? So those little tidbits of knowledge are just like incredible and propelling people forward. For this campaign, we have a local friend helping with accounting, all of these different photographers. There was a couple new ones from France and Spain. Shout out to Matthias from Board Game Shot. He's out of Poland. Yeah, he's incredible to work with. There's another friend from Tangerine Games, so he did some great art. Because as a creator, you just can't do everything. So you have to like outsource. Totally.
Yeah.
And then we're trying a few things like Facebook ads. We're trying backer kit ads for just a couple of days at the end. Reddit ads, and even some tea bloggers. So we're trying to figure out how to get into the tea world a little bit more. And a tea company made us tea influencers for a month, which was really special because we don't know as much tea as we wish we did, but we're getting better.
Wow, that's crazy. And in terms of the logistics, how like how are you managing all this? I can't imagine you're shipping all this from Calgary, right? So how are you
Yeah,
handling this? And do you want to talk about maybe some of the third-party groups you're using to handle your logistics?
for sure. So that's again based on need. For us, we've gone with Happy Shops for the EU. They're really good, and when we're at Essen, they're able to bring in games directly to your booth, so that was super helpful. There's a few other ones I think like Gaming Quest or something out of the UK, so that's another good option. For Canada and the States, we have a group called D6.
Okay.
So they came out of Snakes and Lattes
Yep.
fulfillment. So that was kind of their side, and now they're a separate group. But there's also Quartermaster Logistics, which are awesome. Um, yeah, for Australia, we have Etherworks,
Okay.
and BFI does all of Asia. So they'll send games to Etherworks or also to Brazil. There's a hub. There's a hub in the Philippines and Singapore, Thailand as well. So they send them to those different groups, whether it's a game shop or a board game publisher themselves, and they just get games out. So yeah, it's been really helpful just to get everything off of our hands and then focus on just the game experience and customer support for sure.
It certainly illustrates the magnitude of the team that's behind the
Totally.
creators, right? Like this is not kind of something you just do on your own. The more you can kind of lean on some of these resources of groups that do this for a living that are experts. So you mentioned Games Quest of the UK or Etherworks for Australia. I mean, that's what they do, right? And if you can go with companies like this that will make your job that much easier and take kind of shoulder that load, allows you to pour your energy into social engagement and in your fan engagement.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
A recent example from last week, we had a backer from Russia who didn't receive her game.
Mm.
Yeah, so Happy Shops was able to track down our package with DHL and figure out that it did go missing. And they were happy enough to, well, yeah, Happy Shops, they're happy. They were able to process a new order for us and also get the shipping back from DHL and make that claim. So that was super helpful because we don't even speak the language. And if we had to chase down all these rabbits by ourselves, like it would just take a long time. So yeah, try to outsource as much as you can to professionals. We had another friend who actually did all of our fulfillment for us, so we paid him a fee, and then he was able to calculate how many boxes go into a carton, and then how many of those actually go into one of those shipping containers, which would then go to Germany and to California, and then they would go on to basically a truck and a train and get to the warehouse and all of that. So as first timers, that was super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have that expertise and can move forward in other campaigns.
Are any of your components kind of like a throw in the box afterwards? So I've seen this in some cases where someone will run a campaign. They'll have, I mean, even the Queen of Scots one that we're about to fulfill, there's a first player dealer coin that we did as a stretch target. We didn't want to slow down our production, so we're not going to crack open all the boxes. So when we ship it, that coin will go in separately in the shipping box. Are you doing this with any of your components at all, or is everything self-contained in the box as they ship, kind of as it was meant?
Everything is self-contained in the box, and that's also because we got game trays for the base game, and so everything has to fit exactly perfectly, right? So, and it's all got a place. When we did the expansion, actually the little removable box from our expansion will fit right into the box as well. There's actually a place in the game trays for it. So
yeah, trying to figure out your future games or expansions and making sure that they work, even if you haven't made them yet. So we try to be strategic. It's kind of a meta game in itself.
So everything will kind of fit into this large box,
including the expansion that we didn't think of when we made the base game originally.
But we did have rule books from different languages that were added on top. So if someone requested a Spanish one or a Russian one, it would just be added.
Okay, got it.
Plus metal coins or whatever if they wanted them.
Extra ones, yeah.
Now you're saying off camera that if for shipping, the one option you have is actually fulfillment straight from China. So not everybody knows about this. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I know that there's weight limits and so forth, but can you give us a little bit of details around that?
I used to be an eBay shipper back in high school.
Ah, here it comes. Okay.
So I had a little Lord of the Ring card business. It sounds kind of geeky, but I'm still a huge fan.
Yeah.
So it's actually easier to sometimes ship smaller products, whether you're using Alibaba or Amazon, eBay. all of these drop shippers use places like Send from China or Flow Ship, Easy Ship. There's a few other ones out there if you Google it. They can do very small things for you at a really reasonable cost. So for our expansion, we're able to offer free shipping because it's under $20, which is kind of a magic number for most countries where they won't ding the customer custom fees. So we're able to save a little bit money instead of shipping them over to the country and then having a warehouse figure it out. But it goes straight from the factory to a Chinese fulfillment agency, and then they can bubble wrap it and send it out.
And just for clarity, that value on that game, is that based on the claim manufacturing cost? So that 20, as long as it's under $20 manufacturing cost, or is it based on the pledge value?
Yeah, so to be completely honest, that's kind of a gray area in the board game industry. Some people, let's say you make a play mat and they could just slap on a dollar value or whatnot. But yeah, it's really important to include what your cost is, or the pledge, or somewhere in the middle, or it really depends how your campaign is set up, because shipping is sometimes included in that pledge. Or maybe if they have an add-on, that's going to bump things up. So making sure that you don't spend, a crazy amount of time figuring out 4,000 different costs that, the warehouse has to manage and putting that on, but also being really respectful to, especially the EU, where custom fees are important. And if the customer ends up receiving something that is of high value and they're not charged appropriately, then you can get in trouble, and they can as well. So for us, shipping our games by boat to a warehouse, we're then able to pay the import tax there, and then it figures it out a little bit easier. So yeah, these are all like things that we're learning as well.
A little bit of trial and error. It's not as simple as just saying, oh, it costs, it's worth $1. Right? Yeah. Custom agent looks at it and says, that's not $1. Now, because you're not honest, we're going to apply our own value to it. So sometimes it's better just to, to play it straight. Right.
Yeah.
Guys, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your contribution back to the community. Where are you guys going from here? Where does Steep Games kind of evolve to? I know you've got another, 2-player version of your game coming. But once we get there and beyond, kind of what's it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So our dual game, as you mentioned, is a fan favorite, I guess, in a sense. When we bring it to conventions, people really love it. They love being able to just sit down with it with their spouse or loved one, whatever, and enjoy it after everything's kind of quiet for the day. So that, I think, we're really looking forward to maybe in about 5-6 months. And and then after that, we're thinking a Canadian animals game. So we won't release the name yet, but we do have Andrew Bosley from Everdell working on that one, actually, for the art for 2 as well. So so we're really excited. The art looks beautiful. We got some cover art and all of that going.
Yeah, and a funny story of how Chai Tea for 2 was originally scheduled for 02/02/2020, like a week before Valentine's Day,
because it's a dual game, right?
Yep.
So.
We got the marketing perfect, and then we realized that that was on Super Bowl Sunday.
Whoops.
So yeah, no one would be on Kickstarter for sure. So we bumped it back to March, maybe 16th-ish, and then COVID hit. So then we bumped it back to May, which is when we launched this expansion for Chai, because we didn't have the heart to, say we're going to be bumping it back again. We had to provide something, and it's really important to honor your fan base and make sure that we're in this all together. So it was really cool coming up with some of these community-inspired abilities for the base game Chai. Yeah. We had a few posts just like, hey, what are some crazy things you want to do in Chai? And then maybe a third of them made it into the end, or at least inspired some of the final actions.
Well, certainly, I mean, I would say it's been successful. Even this kind of last-minute kind of expansion, it's worked out well for you guys. And if you look at the numbers, I know we said at the beginning of our chat that 1/3 of these pledges are people that are coming back. That means 2/3 of the people are being introduced to this game for the first time, right? Are becoming new Chai lovers.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I'm one of them, right? I'm gonna back this game.
No pressure.
Do my research. No pressure at all. But this is the kind of game I love to play. You get through it quick. There's enough complexity in there for it to be interesting and to keep mixing it up every time you play, yet not too heavy that you can introduce it to people who are maybe first-time board gamers. So congratulations once again to you guys. Thanks again so much for coming on this show, and I hope we can bring you back again sometime.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
No worries. Take care, guys. Cheers.